Hello, my name is Lindy Cowling and welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk and the way to contact me is via email, which would be info@lindycowling.co.uk. If you have emailed me, forgive me if it's taken me a few days or a week or so to get back to you. I will get back to you. You'll get an automated response, but I'll get back to you shortly. So apologies for that. I basically can't stay off camera at the moment. It's quite amusing. I could literally be talking and filming 24/7. This has been something that's been building up for a matter of months. Physical dictates, things in the physical life has dictated the amount of time I've been able to get on camera. Otherwise I'd have been on there much more than I have been. I'm just having so many insights and downloads and you know, tapping into the knowing and realizations at the moment that you know, it's just full on really, night and day, particularly early hours of the morning. And I'm just, you know, the really strongest ones are the ones that I'm acting upon and are motivating me to get in front of the camera and to drop everything else and do that. There's plenty going on, you know, plenty of others that I haven't got the time to get on here and you know, record at the moment. So I'm going for the priority ones really, the ones that I feel most compelled and excited, and I think it's important to talk about at this time. So the one that I really want to talk about is, or the title of today's video is Jumper. Jumping multidimensional timelines. Jumping multi-dimensional timelines. If you have followed any of my videos before, if you've followed my video series, then you will know that I only speak about things that I have experienced firsthand or gone through the process with clients. So I don't speak from the point of view of a theory, a hypothesis. It's actualized, it's experiential. So I'm really passionate to talk about this, but let me just start with my own experience. I first experienced timeline jumping, but I didn't know what that was at that time, so I called it a time slip. With a spiritual connection that I was with at that time, what is known as the twin flame. This happened way back in, I think it was 2011. I think it was as long ago as 2011 now, because we met in 2010. This was a spontaneous thing. We were already able to, beyond the level of our control and within our control, morph to other elements of our soul. So for example, we were in a very strong shamanic life, so I would turn into a Native American Indian and he would turn into a Native American Indian. This was not imagination. This was not imagination or some illusion or hallucination. I can tell you categorically, it's a long story. We were working as healers in front of roomfuls of people that witnessed certain things and witnessed a rainbow bridge running between us and certain merging of the energy field. My own mother, who works as a healer, an amazing healer, she's also a medium clairvoyant, didn't know any of my previous, or should I say not previous, but multidimensional, so existing at the same time timelines, what you would call past lives. And when I was talking to her about elements of that connection way back in, this would have been then about 2011, 2012, I morphed in front of her to the elements, the other elements of my multidimensional soul. And she actually voiced what she was seeing. Yes, she's a medium clairvoyant, which gave her more ability to see that, but the point I'm making here is it was not an illusion, a hallucination. It was witnessed outside of me, or outside of us too. So I digress slightly there. The jumping timelines that we did and did not mean to do happened in a pub in England, you know, where I live, in the UK. Spontaneously happened. We were talking about another timeline that elements of our soul was experiencing at the same time. So 1930s Boston. Full information on the characters, the expression of the soul, our soul involved in that timeline. So we knew the personalities, we knew the end result, we knew the characteristics, and during talking about it for 3 to 5 minute window, maybe slightly longer, elements of the pub we were sitting in began to morph into the reality that we were talking about. So for example, the lead male component of our soul, Johnny Boy, there was someone identical looking to Johnny Boy sitting in that pub all of a sudden. Everything about him made our, you know, made us get goosebumps. The music turned to 1930s themed music. The whole smell of the pub changed to one of like a diner, an American diner, or this with strong smells of coffee. It was like being on a multi-dimensional fairground ride. Extraordinary, and both looking at one another saying, are you really seeing this? Is this really happening? Extraordinary. Now, we didn't know what to term that. We found it amazing, magical, and kind of termed it as some kind of bleed through that we had somehow merged into other expressions of our soul consciousness in 1930s Boston. In my career, my 15-year career, working in past life regression and future life regression is something I've done on BBC Radio 1 twice with a couple of the top DJs on there, and it has worked on air, live. I had tapped into and was already familiar with the concept of time not being linear, meaning I already knew that time was like a spiral or like a circular thing, and that we could tap into various elements of it. So we could go ahead, or we could go, what I thought in some ways then was back. Now I realise, as a part of my own spiritual evolution, it's not back. We're dipping into timelines that are existing in this moment. So everything is existing in this moment. Past, present, future is all happening in this moment, and kind of in a way all accessible. But I didn't realise that then. I was still more like, well, the past is back here. Even though I kind of intellectually understood it, I didn't really quite embody it at that point in my spiritual evolution, you know. So I kind of understood it, but I wasn't all the way, you know, fully embodying it then. So I already had this knowledge, if you like. And I was referring to it as bleed-throughs. When clients would come to me and would have past life regression, I would see them morph in front of me. I would see them morph into the character that they were about to describe before they described it. And when that first used to happen, that used to make me nervous early in my career, but I saw it so many times and see it so many times now, I don't take any notice of it. And then they would start reporting that they were a 5-year-old chimney sweep in London, you know, in Victorian England or something. But I'd already seen them morph to that, you know, laying on the couch in front of me. So I already knew that we could open doorways and you could tap into, at that time I thought, again, past lives, it was their past. Now I know it's their multidimensional soul, other aspects of them, their soul essence, experiencing dramas, traumas, life in other timelines at the same time, but I did not have that awareness then. So what I'm saying is I already had, it was all in the mix, already all in the mix, some ideas along these lines. Never, I mean, nothing could have prepared me for actually experiencing continuously morphing and changing and shifting until I had my spiritual connection, my soul connection, you know, what people call the twin flame union. And this was something that used to spontaneously happen, and I think in the end, before we broke away from each other, I think we had full awareness of about 6 multidimensional timelines at that time, what you would call past lives, but weren't past lives. We had awareness of about 6, but we knew there was more. As we needed them, we become more aware of others, you know, depending on what skills were needed, what knowledge was needed, what wisdom was needed. But then we did get quite good at having an element of control over it, so then we could literally lock in and have some control over it, and then fully morph into those characteristics in those timelines. So the point I'm making here is, because things are moving very, very quickly now, and our awareness and our knowledge is, you know, for all of us on this planet, is changing all the time. Just again, literally in the last 24 hours, I've had this realization and this kind of knowing that this is very vitally important information, this timeline jumping, because it's something that's accessible to all of us. Like the example I gave you, this person that came in for a past life regression years ago, I mean, I'm talking years ago, the first time I saw it happen, 15 years ago. That was nothing to do with twin flames, but this was someone morphing into another expression of their soul's consciousness, their soul's essence, as part of their multidimensional soul. They were accessing that at the same time, and it just had this full realization literally yesterday and today that that's available to absolutely everyone. And this links in with tapping into true multidimensionality and true consciousness, which means that we can change elements of the timeline we are presently in. If we are not completely at peace in it or satisfied with it, we can create, literally create, within this timeline, not just changes in this timeline, but we can tap into the other elements of our soul to enhance and change, alter the timeline we're in. It links in with creativity. It's much more than positive thinking. That is not what I'm talking about here, like manifesting that way. It's more than that. It's the element of creation from the heart. Again, it has to be felt. It has to truly, truly be felt and embodied to lock in, home in on that, I was going to say vibration, but the word that just came straight in my head was that code, which that just comes straight to me, straight out from the knowing, the code. So we have to lock into it like a signal, like a homing signal, a radar. And not just for a few minutes and say, oh, well, that's done now. This has to be a consistent thing until we're embodying it, We're having to learn. It's like learning to walk all over again, or learning to write when we go to school. It's like learning all over again skills that we didn't know we had. And we have to start by embracing the concept that time is not linear. We don't start at A, progress to B, and end at C. That is third dimensional baloney. That is not the truth. The truth is there is only this present second, but that all expressions of our soul's consciousness, multidimensionality, is expressing in what we think of as all the elements of history And for some people, if this is not their last life, you know, last time here, also their future timelines, you know, it's all the same thing at the same moment. You know, it's quite funny, it's quite magical really. I can see how all of my career has led up to this particular second about what I'm talking about, because I've worked in time and dipping back in past lives, forward in future lives, with such, you know, over a 15-year period. Part of future life progression works along timeline jumping, in that you can dip into the positive vibration, the most optimistic outcome, the positive choice, and you lock into that and you can draw it towards you, that vibration. Now this is something we couldn't fully understand, but those of us that have been working in future life progression have been doing this for years. I have to laugh. It was way back in 2007 now. I was invited on BBC Radio 1 on a top breakfast show that went out to 11.5 million. I was really, really nervous, and I had to do future life progression on a top DJ on air. And I knew I would be up for a fair bit of Mickey taking, but I thought, you know, Spirit would not put me in that situation unless I was meant to go into that situation. So I went in there, took the guy into light hypnosis. I said to him, this is going to be like Doctor Who, but without the TARDIS, which they thought was hilarious. And, you know, they were doing lots of Doctor Who music in the background when it went out on air. And there was a fair bit of Mickey taking but it worked perfectly. And the DJ I was working on, Scott Mills, he was so up for it, and he was brilliant actually, and really, really receptive to it. And there was information coming out there which went out on air to 11.5 million people. And his co-worker afterwards, when it went out, he said, he was taking a Mickey, you know, just to make it entertaining, and saying, oh, do you think the producers of Doctor Who will put this out on air? Because the DJ that I'd taken into the future, he was seeing like a London bus in the desert, and he was seeing himself in America, staying in this amazing house, and his career opening up in America and linking with America. You know, a year to the day that that interview took place, the producers of Doctor Who had a Christmas special with a London bus in the desert. Now, because we were going in the theme of Doctor Who, they picked it out of what I call the pot of potentiality, which was floating around up there. They either heard that show and put it in their show because they heard it, or we, myself and Scott Mills, dipped into that future because we had talked about Doctor Who and time travel and kind of saw it. That's two elements there, but also his career did open up in America, and he was connected with the Hoff, you know, the Hoffman guy from Baywatch, I think it was, you know, and they did do some stuff, and he was staying in America, and they did do some programs in America. So it all came to pass, all the Mickey taking, but it all came to pass. It happened. Now again, I couldn't go into his mind and pick out clairvoyantly, because I'm clairvoyant and clairaudient, that information, because it wasn't there at that time. We were going ahead, you know, or ahead, not really what we think of as ahead, but in a timeline that was existing in the same moment, and that information was coming from him, although I could see it clairvoyantly at the same time in my head as he was reporting it back. So what I mean is, in some ways, you know, many of us have only just been able to understand this and put this into plain English. The multidimensional soul that we are all multidimensional beings, means that we are existing in multiple lifelines, timelines at the same time. And by vibrating with the energy of that, the positive energy of that, we can link in with that vibration and alter for the positive outcome the timeline that we are presently in. Am I saying that if you are meant to die on a certain date, or you're meant to see someone meet someone on a certain date, and that is all designed by the soul, can that be altered? I don't feel that can be altered. I feel that there are certain junctures, if you like, certain points where there is a crossover, and those points have to be met, and that they happen anyway regardless. You know, if you go from A to B this way or A to B that way, you're still going to get to B, so to speak. But there are variations on that flow, there are variations to a theme, and we can, by not just individually doing this for our individual timelines, but the knock-on effect is because it affects everyone around us. I mean, we can collectively do this, negatively or positively. This is why if we collectively focus on something very negatively with fear, that we can alter its outcome to make that outcome much worse. You know, that's why it's very important in some respects what you are continually focusing on. I don't mean now and again, I mean obsessing over or focusing on all the time. Equally, if we are linking in with a more positive element to this, we can alter it. There's a balancing act here, not to go into a state of denial and just think, oh well, I'll think this and then I'll lay back and not do anything about it. This is proactive, this is creation. This isn't, you know, just have a random thought and sit back. This is creation. This is locking in with our own vibration. This applies again with everyone across, you know, everyone, because, you know, everyone's a soul here. And it definitely also resonates with me fully, because I've tried to articulate this before, where the soul has a choice. It can either choose its optimal timeline, the best possible outcome for the soul, the tip-top outcome for the soul, or it can deviate off onto a lower in terms of vibration and frequency, a lower vibratory state, a timeline that's not for the optimal expression of the soul. You know, and the soul knows this. You know this, we know this, it can be felt. It can be felt. That's something I've tried to articulate before in relation to twin flames. So I think it's very, very exciting, and it's so strange. You know, it's something that's been bubbling in my awareness for ages, but then just suddenly it's just gone again, boom, 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 into realizations. It's really, really can be life-changing for us, this, when we realize, and we're learning this, we're learning it, we're realizing it, and we're going to learn how to navigate it. We're like, you know, we're like navigators, you know, just setting forth on this multidimensional universe that we have within, you know, that is all existing in this same moment. Anyway, on that note, before I go on too long, I will love you and leave you. And I don't know how many times I'm going to keep coming back on camera till people get sick of me being on camera, I think. It's obviously the way I'm supposed to express at the moment. It's obviously the way I'm supposed to share at the moment. It's something that I love doing, you know, I'm motivated by, passionate about. So, you know, I'll keep on doing it while it feels right to do it. I will love you and leave you. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.